Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Counter WMD Innovation Challenge. My name is Katie Bornploth. I am going to host for the day. I'm the Associate Director of Marketing and Comms here at Tech Connect, which is a division of Advanced Technology International, or ATI. I'm going to walk us through the first little bit of this. We want to cover some basic housekeeping really quickly. If you all would just keep yourself on mute, it just helps with the fluidity and it benefits everybody. I know that you guys are all eager to get your questions answered. That's why we're here. So if you came locked and loaded with your questions, or if they come up during the session, that's fine. Either way, you have a GoToWebinar control panel, and there's a little question area there. If you would go ahead and answer or put all your questions in that area, we're going to get to a pretty beefy Q&A session at the end. It's about 15 or 20 minutes worth, so do not fret. We will get to your questions. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and just get started. I'm going to go over a very high level explanation of the challenge, and then my review panelist is going to get into more of the intricate pieces of the challenge and the consortia information. So with that being said, let's just introduce my panelists. This is Mike Stebbins. He is the Vice President of Medical Threat Countermeasures Division at Advanced Technology International. He is also the Executive Director of the Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Consortium, or CWMD, as well as the Executive Director of the Medical Seaborne Defense Consortium, or MCDC. All right, and we will be speaking a lot with him very shortly. Okay, so let's get started. Challenge overview. Why are we running this challenge? This challenge is meant to support national defense efforts to combat weapons of mass destruction with innovation, and that is where you come in. Well, why apply and attend this challenge? All right, so you are going to meet top investment, industry, and military tech scouts in person, not through a screen, in person. You're going to show them your presentation, and you may meet your next partner or funder. You're going to receive a free pass to attend the conference and pitch. So that gives you access to the entire Tech Connect World Conference, which is huge. Not only that, but it's co-located with 3 other events that you're also going to get access to, one being MOSA, that is the Modular Open Systems Approach Industry Government Summit and Expo, the SBIR STTR Spring Innovation Conference, and the Nanotech 2024 Conference and Expo. So you're going to get access to all of those things. In addition to your pitch, you are going to meet representation of over 100 billion in contracting authority. Obviously, your no strings attached funding that we're all after here. You are going to present to government representatives who they're going to see your submission, and it could possibly be the basis for future requirements. You're going to meet and collaborate with people just like you. The networking is unprecedented. You can talk about your challenges, you name it, but you're going to be among them all. You're going to learn from thought leaders or experts, cream of the crop in their technical subdomains, and get to know consortial leadership and learn more about the OTA model. All right, so the areas of interest for the challenge, there's 3 main buckets. There's protection, prevention, and detection. If you don't see, I'm not going to go into great detail. Mike's going to go way more into detail on this, but if you don't see your solution listed under one of these buckets, don't fret. This is basically like we're countering weapons of mass destruction is huge, right? So this just breaks it down to say, oh, okay, well, I fit there and I fit there. These are examples for you. So if you don't see yours, don't worry about it. I'm sure 99.9% sure you will fit. All right, so let's talk about evaluation criteria. All right, so the first thing is, well, 5 categories: value and impact. What is the ability for your solution to make a difference? Readiness. What is the ability for your solution to pivot and implement to meet the need of the government or consortium or partner? What's the ability for you to pivot there? Scalability. What is your ability to go to scale, right? So the more versatile, the better. Financial viability. So what's your return on investment going to look like? And then pitch quality. What's your ability to take all aspects of your solution and fit it into your pitch? Which leads me to the pitch event. All right, so the pitch event is going to be held at Tech Connect World, which is this June 17th through 19th. We've had a healthy dose of submissions so far. It's very impressive. But we're going to choose up to 25. And how this is going to work is we don't have that specific day yet. We will very shortly of when this is going to happen. So block off that time in your calendar, the 17th through 19th of June. It's kind of like a Shark Tank style. So you're going to have your presentation, you're going to have AV, you're going to be in a room full of people watching. You're going to have 5 minutes to pitch, and then 2 minutes of Q&A from a judging panel. And it's timely. We are going to have the winners announced at the end of the last session that day, so you do not have to wait. All right, and that brings me to the awards, which we all want to know about. So all the funding is non-dilutive. That $50,000 is broken down into first, second, and third place, $25,000, $15,000, and $10,000. Timeline, these are important dates. So March 28th is going to be the last day you can apply. We will notify you as a finalist by mid-April, and then you will notify us if you accept by late April. And then, of course, the pitch event is going to be at Tech Connect World in National Harbor, which is just outside of DC. All right, so the submission process, it's super simple. It's on our website. The URL is down here, but if you want to take your phone out and take a snapshot of this QR code, it's going to take you directly to that entry sheet or submission sheet, or jot down that QR code there. All right, and if you don't get your answers today, which I hope everything gets answered, this is your girl. Laura Murphy is the senior project manager for this challenge. She will be able to and happy to answer any questions you have, whether before submissions, after submissions, what have you. So make sure that you jot that down or take a snapshot of that. And just one more reminder that if you have questions, please put them into your control panel, and we will get to that Q&A at the end of the session. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Mike Stebbins. Mike, take the stage.
Thanks, Katie. Let me get my screen sharing here. Okay, so hopefully everybody is seeing the banner screen here. We'll talk for just a moment about the actual consortium, but let me give you a little bit of background. So as Katie had mentioned, we're running this challenge. The idea is really to explore what's happening out in industry, get a sort of state of the technology or state of the possible with regards to certain areas in the field of countering weapons of mass destruction. So what's underlying all of this is a contract between the consortium and the Department of Defense, specifically the Joint Program Executive Office for Chem, Bio, Rad, and Nuke Defense, where they're using this consortium and the members of this consortium to do portfolio contracting. So really anything that addresses countering threats of mass destruction. So as I mentioned, it could be chem or bio threats, and in some cases, radiological and nuclear. And so the technology area is fairly broad, and they align with this challenge. Protection sensors, technologies that address specifically the needs of our special ops forces, enabling biotechnologies, and we'll even talk about some integration. And so this is a consortium comprised of small and large entities, academia, nonprofits, etc. There really is no limit to the number of entities that can comprise the consortium. And so it's really open to all. There's a small annual membership fee of $250. And then there's a couple hurdles that you have to get over, have access to controlled unclassified information, but we can walk you through all that at a later date. But the agreement between the government and the consortium is for developing technologies, actually prototyping technologies, up to $10 billion total value. And since 2017, when this effort kicked off, we've awarded 192 projects. Not all of those are active today, and those projects have received just north of $1 billion in funding. So with this particular challenge pitch, the areas of interest, I consolidated them here a little bit. And again, it really boils down to, can you put your technologies in one of these three large categories: protection, prevention, or detection? So protection can be personal protection. So we're talking about chem bio suits, hoods, masks, gloves, your typical PPE, but from a chem bio threat standpoint. The development of chemical resistant materials, how to isolate, how to transport, how to decontaminate. And that could be not only for the individual, but for other physical assets as well. So we send assets into forward operating positions, they become contaminated. How do we decontaminate so we can get that asset back into the theater? And then from a prevention standpoint, these would be along the lines of enabling biotech and even integrated early warning. So trying to understand situational awareness using virtual reality, sensors, etc., command control. Really, you're trying to understand the battle space or the forward operating position before you send in personal or physical assets, wearables, handhelds, other means of communication. So a lot of control systems could be part of prevention, as could be machine learning and AI technologies. And then detection. So when we send these assets into place, whether it be an autonomous vehicle or a driven vehicle, what kind of sensors do we have, or we can detect the actual threats? Give some indication back. Those systems could be wearable, they could be a series of sense systems, they could be put on autonomous platforms. And so it's really incumbent to pick the right category, but it's not critical. I'll go back to some of the judgment criteria. I've been involved in a handful of these pitches as an observer and as a reviewer, and it does all come down to pitch quality. Each of you who gets selected to pitch, you're going to have a great technology. You're going to be very passionate about it, and you're going to want to talk in very much detail about how that technology works. Just keep in mind, you have 5 minutes to convey how your technology brings value to the Department of Defense. Okay, that's that's effectively, you can go outside of that a little bit, but you have to show the value, and the reach and the scalability, and again, the financial viability. You have to talk about that in a very short order. So, high level with the technology, somebody may ask you a question about that, but really hone in on the message, how it's making an impact, how close it is to being in a position to where it could be prototyped and put in the field for test and evaluation. So those are just some key talking points that you should keep in mind as you're developing your technology. And Katie, that's really all I have. I'm happy to talk about some questions as they come up.
I'm on mute, not anymore. All right, let's get to those questions, Mike. All right, let's start with Daniel asks, what TRLs make sense for this challenge?
So TRLs, we really should be talking about 4 and above. 4, 5, 6. It all really depends on how new your technology is. So if you're trying to show something that's a little bit better than something that's already out there, but you're only at a TRL 4, then it better be a pretty good presentation to try to unseat something that's maybe at a 7 or 8 or 9. But most of what is done, or actually all that's done under the CWMD consortium, is at a prototype level. So we're not talking basic R&D. Now, I don't think there's any problem with coming in with some basic R&D in your pitch, but we're really looking at stuff that's at minimum a TR level or technology readiness level of 4.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mike. All right, so John, he asks, can you provide some guidance on desired objectives or requirements for technology fitting within the subtopic area of decontamination systems for this challenge? And could you also elaborate on or give examples of types of decontamination systems that would be of interest to and in scope?
Yeah, that's a pretty broad question, but has a lot of specificity built into it. I think the best thing to do is if you visit cwmdconsortium.org, you can find in that website a list of all the requirements that the government has run through this contracting vehicle. So over almost 200 of them, and you can get a sense from a decontamination standpoint what they've looked at, what's been of interest to them. I think that will give you a little bit of a flavor. And then if you think that your technology might have an application in Department of Defense circles, then I would certainly go down that path.
Okay, thank you. Are topics covering more than one focus area preferred?
Sure. Preferred, I can't speak to. My only hesitation in covering more than one topic area might be as you start to add on capability, you might be doing each of them less, covering each area less than you might a single area. It just really depends on the problem that you're solving. And so I would look at it from that standpoint. What problem are you solving? And if you have to have multiple technologies, then the technologies are going to underlie the solution set. And if the solution set is of interest to the government, then that's going to be a winning combination.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is there a portion of the award set aside for small businesses or non-traditional defense contractors?
That's a great question. The awards don't have any specific set aside, so they are for all comers. We don't have a specific, we have 3 different awards. Do we have one that's specifically for smalls? We don't. We certainly encourage and anticipate getting submissions from small businesses and non-traditionals, but we open it up to everybody. And you certainly don't have to be a member of the consortium to be eligible for one of these awards.
Okay, fantastic.
What we have seen in the past is that a vast majority of the submissions are from small businesses and non-traditionals.
Okay. All right. Would it be beneficial for dual use DoD and Homeland Security technologies?
Yeah, I think that's great. Anytime, in my opinion, that you can have a dual use technology, our threat countermeasures domestically, for a biological event or a chemical spill or something like that, absolutely. That means that eventually the dollars that are being put towards a project from the government have broader applicability.
Okay, great. Are Canadian owned and operated tech companies eligible to participate?
Yeah, I don't see why not. From a consortium standpoint, we do limit membership to US-based companies or US-based affiliates of foreign entities. And that's just simply because of the work that's being done is being funded by the Department of Defense through the consortium. But at this point, we don't have limitations on the prizes that we're offering. They are not being offered through DoD. They are being offered through funds that have come through the consortium.
Okay, great. Are there any restrictions on the type or size of teams that can apply to the challenge?
No, that's interesting. I've never heard the question quite put that way. Really, it's your technology that you're pitching. And so if many pitches include behind the scenes, a team that has helped them get to where they are. Just recall that you've got 5 minutes and a couple minutes to answer questions. So you're pitching your solution, not necessarily the entirety of the team. Though I've seen many slides that talk about the depth and breadth of their team. But at the end of the day, if you spend 2 minutes on your team and you don't quite convey the applicability of the technology, then that might not be a winning solution.
Okay, great. All right, so how will intellectual property rights be handled for the innovations presented at the pitch event?
We recommend that you don't talk so in depth of a level to where you'll be giving away intellectual property. We're not providing any protection for IP. We're not looking to take any IP. This is a pitch to an open audience, so keep that in mind when you're talking about IP, data rights, confidential information. This is an open source pitch, and should you be fortunate to win, then the money just comes to you, and that's the conclusion.
Okay, fantastic. Are antidotes also considered for this call for a protective measure?
I think the antidotes would be more on the medical side. If you're talking specifically for our personal health, this is really everything outside of, say, a medical countermeasure.
Okay, great. All right, here's one. Can you elaborate on the expected audience at the pitches for Tech Connect World?
Sure. It'll certainly be a mixed bag. You'll have other innovators and pitchers in the room with you. The idea and the plan is to, beyond the review panel, to have government customers that are in this space, certainly funders, investors, and other government officials and other industry that are looking to see what sort of technologies are out there that they may not have heard of.
Okay, fantastic. Are the companies expected to self-fund to get to the conference to present?
Yes, yes.
Short answer, yes. But you do get in to 4 co-located events and get in front of all of these people at no cost. All right. And if you guys have any more questions, keep them filing in. It looks okay. Will sponsors follow up with pitching companies after the competition ends? That's a great question.
So let me offer this.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure I completely understand the question. In a way, I would say that the Counter WMD Consortium is the sponsor. We're the ones that are giving away, and TechConnect is helping us put this on. We will have available to us all the information that comes in. It would be ideal if we share that with the government. So we're not sharing it certainly outside of a government customer, but if the government was interested in the information that we received, I think that would be of benefit to the entities that put in a submission, whether it made it to the pitch round or not. But none of the pitches will be shared, or none of the information that we receive will be shared outside of the government beyond the actual pitch day where you're talking live to an open audience.
Okay, great. And this one says, forgive me if you mentioned this before, but how can we and do we get involved with a consortia?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on that second slide, and Katie, I don't know if we're making those slides available or not, but you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Katie or Laura. They can get you in contact with us. We've got a fairly simple process to join. You can go to cwmdconsortium.org, and the membership information is there. And then there's also a mechanism to reach out to one of us if you want to have a phone conversation. We're always happy to do that.
Okay, fantastic. And the follow-up to that was, can you tell me again what the benefits are for me?
Sure. Benefits of the consortium are fairly broad. I think initially they depend on the size of the company, but it's a network of about 400 other entities that all have some level of expertise and interest in the counter WMD technology space. So you have an opportunity to interact with them, learn about their capabilities, determine if you might find a teaming partner, maybe have some business-to-business activity. And then, of course, you have insight to government requirements that are coming through in the counter WMD space, and opportunity to bid against those requirements and get non-dilutive funding.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Mike. All right, Mark asks, should we mention current proposals and other potential funding and interest, or is it only the tech that matters?
Well, that's a great question. I think if you've gotten funding and if you've gotten funding that has helped develop your technology, and that has come from the government or other sources, then I'd weave that in, because that shows interest from other parties in your technology. So as your technology has started to develop and you've gotten people interested in it, so they see that there might be a future there, I think it's wise to weave that into your development. Hey, we've gotten this far through SBIR phase 1 or phase 2, or we got investment from this private firm, or we had other government funding. Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right, so does the definition of mass destruction extend to our nation's digital infrastructure?
I think for the purposes of this exercise, probably not, but that's really an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
For the purpose of this, everything should be associated with a chemical, biological, radiological, or nuclear threat. There probably could be a much broader definition. We're not talking other means of disrupting commerce or things like that. So let's leave it to a CBRN threat. That's primarily what the consortium is in business to help the government with.
All right, well said. All right, does the earlier statement about the TRL4 mean we shouldn't bother if our tech is below that? Was TRL6 but not commercially available?
No, I think if you have, again, prototyping is typically going to be defined at no lower than TRL4. The higher it is, maybe the more likelihood it's moving towards test and evaluation, maybe even commercialization. That's great, but it really depends on the technology. If you have something that's fairly groundbreaking and you think there's applicability there, but it's sitting at a TRL of 2 or 3, and you've got some backing behind it, I certainly wouldn't choose not to pitch. I think, or to submit. I think the submission requirement isn't onerous enough to where you shouldn't just give it a try.
Yeah.
And who knows, if it gets in front of the government, maybe it aligns with something that they're thinking that's a little further afield, and there's a conversation that happens later.
Right, and that's kind of the glory of it, is you're around all these people. It might not be a fit here, but it could be a fit somewhere else, and all those co-located events overlap in some way. So, all right. So it looks like we're pretty much caught up on all our questions. If you guys have any more, put them in right now. Otherwise, I hope that we answered everything for you. We're wrapping up a little bit early, which is just fine. And thank you, Mike, and thank you all for attending. I do want to say that if something comes up later that you didn't think of while you were sitting here with us and you want some questions answered, again, please reach out to Laura Murphy. She is the woman behind the scenes here, or Mike or myself. We can get you the answers if needed. But if that is all you guys have for us today, I think we're all set, and good luck. Hope to see you in
Thanks,
DC.
everyone.